all of you who think that in India things move only because somebody will refer you, please correct that. That culture in Delhi and Bombay should be corrected. You can write and you can achieve. There are 800 million of you. If 800 million aspire, get the right Indian values, get the right focus in terms of samvad and not vivad, automatically our country will not be a Viksit Bharat in 2047, but will be a Viksit Bharat in 2037. And that is the future that you hold.
Pleasure being here. Thanks for having us. Makes me meet my friend, old-time friend, Rishab. So, Rishab, this is a very interesting book, and we are discussing this at an interesting place, Sri Ram College of Commerce, at the backdrop of Sri Ram's, return to Ayodhya. And I want to congratulate you for, coming up with this book. And there is a very diverse kind of people you have met and documented in this book, from Rahul Gandhi to Subramanian Swamy to P.T. Usha to Deepak Parekh. I want to ask you that from the outside, these people look very, very different. Their ideologies, their careers, their passions, their achievements. Is there something common that you have found beneath the surface that we don't know?
So, firstly, thank you for having me. But honestly, Sahil, in terms of the people that we mention and profile in the book, these are people that that I've written about, who have met 10, 15 times, who've attended IIM on at least 6, 7 times, publicly been with them, privately spoken to them. Yet they choose to talk to me, which is why I wonder what's wrong with them. But in all seriousness, whether it is Sar Sangachalak ji of the RSS, and I have written in the book that I am unabashedly unashamed of saying that the RSS, that is the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, has had an impact on this RSS, that is Rishab Sanjay Shah. And so also Mr. Gandhi. Now people say that how can you say that Rahul Gandhi mein bhi kuch acha hai, or Rahul Gandhi ji bhi अच्छे hai और Mohan Bhagwat ji bhi अच्छे hai. How can you, what is the similarity, what can you learn? So Sahil, to answer your question, amantram aksharam nasti mulamanukshyam ayogya purusho nasti yojakas tatra durlabha. I will just tell the meaning. It basically means that one can learn from everyone. However good or bad that person is, however mean or not so mean that person is, whether the person is the devil or the devil's advocate, one can learn from everybody. And I personally believe that, and this is something that we've documented in the book also, and I believe that all of these people have that one trait, which is that they'll all teach you something. It is upon the person how much they can absorb, but as long as we are ready to absorb, they may say it in a cruel way, not so cruel way, but as long as we're sitting and we're listening with ears open, eyes open, I think we'll pick up and learn something. So one common trait amongst the 10 of them, and amongst people at large, which I don't think people really are okay and comfortable with today. Today it's a very divisive society. Is that you can pick up something from everyone. Yeah.
So there are these 10 are, of course, all of them are public figures. Very, we hear them from outside, but because you say that there is something to learn from each of them, let me read out the names of these 10 people that you've closely interacted with for this book, and then I'll ask you of one or two examples from any of them which you personally found extremely inspiring and they touched your own personality or perspective in life. So it's Mohan Bhagwat, Rahul Gandhi, Subramanian Swamy, Pranab Mukherjee, P.T. Usha, Bipin Rawat, Deepak Parekh, Karan Johar, A.R. Rahman, and Syed Akbaruddin. So no one needs any introduction. We know from their videos, their wiki pages. What is something that you found extremely inspiring or intriguing that you didn't know when you started writing about them? So some story that touched you.
One thing that really touched me in this book, which I think will be surprising for a lot of the people also in the audience, is हम लोग image बना लेते, and this image is based on the on things that we see in media. मीडिया में हम लोग देख लेते हैं कि 9 बजे क्या हो रहा है, एंड 9 बजे देखने के बाद हम लोग 10 बजे इमेज बना देते हैं, 11 बजे वो इमेज सॉलिड हो जाता है हमारे दिमाग में, और 12 बजे तक वी आर अ PhD on that subject. This happens to me. I don't know about them, they are much more smarter than the both of us. But the thing is that when we meet some of these people, that time we realize they're not like that. And I'll give you one example because you've asked saying, give me an example. So there's a gentleman in the book that I write about who is called the king of nepotism. Can you guess who it is? Correct. आप में से कितने लोगों को लगता है कि वो हर एक नेपो चाइल्ड को लॉन्च करता है? He is the king of nepotism and he only launches children who belong to film families. How many of us think that? They are recording me, not you. Bollywood and the image of, say, Bollywood from Karan Johar. And my perception, I come from Bombay, so for us, Bollywood and business interchangeably are everything in life. And Karan Johar for me was somebody who I always wanted to meet. I landed up meeting him after a long period of time. That's another story. But when I met him, at that juncture, my perception of him was that, he'll be somebody who will be very snooty, arrogant. He'll look at you and he'll say, yes, nice to meet you, and then, okay, bye, thanks. And the first time I met him, and it took me 10 years to meet him, and perhaps I'll elucidate a little later why it took me 10 years to meet him. But when I met him for the first time, he looked at me, he had a conversation for half an hour. He said, Rishabh, you're an idiot. Which he said, which most people say. But Rishabh, you're an idiot that you waited 10 years to meet me. Now that you've met me, can I tell you that what you're doing is something that I like? And then, since then, that man without camera, हम लोग को क्या लगता है कि बॉलीवुड में वो लोग कैमरा के साथ ही काम करते हैं. That कैमरा नहीं है तो वो काम नहीं करेंगे. Correct. Much like the perception of politicians is that. But Karan is somebody who regularly interacts, somebody who's regular at conferences, speaks to young people. Camera nahi hai, arrogance nahi hai, attitude nahi hai. And I don't know how he is with everybody. Okay, somebody might say that I met Karan and that time he was very rude with me. But my perception of a Karan Johar, my perception of a Rahul Gandhi, my perception of many of these people who publicly are portrayed in a very different light, dramatically changed after meeting them. And therefore, before people make up their mind, I keep asking them, how many times have you met that person in person? आप उनको जानते हो कि नहीं? Once you know that person in person, then you make up your mind, yes, this is good or bad. But before that, if you make up your mind, then it becomes an issue. So Karan was one such example.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, especially for students who are at this age, very impressionable age, and we make impressions based on media or external information, as you said, and those impressions could be very, very wrong. So it's important to keep our mind open. Then that's when we'll give ourselves a chance to really know a person. So, of course, the first two people in the book are Mohan Bhagwat and Rahul Gandhi. They also, they represent some ideas which are very different. So what do you support? You support the idea of India that is Mohan Bhagwat's idea of India or Rahul Gandhi's idea of India?
What is the idea of India that I believe in, or is it Nehru's India or Modi's Bharat? I fundamentally believe that it need not be Nehru's India and Modi's Bharat. The problem in our country is, Sahil, we deal in binaries. Matlab, it's absolutely correct or it's absolutely wrong. That he's absolutely right as a person, that वो जो भी करते हैं वो सही है. And I adore Prime Minister Modi. Just like I'm sure very many people do. But to say that there is no fault in Sahil Agarwal, there are 5 faults. In Rishabh, there are 20. In Gaurangaji, there are 1. But even Gaurangaji would perhaps have and accept that there might be one mistake. The idea that somebody is infallible, that somebody is absolutely correct, is not something that you should believe in. Therefore, Indianness for me, or India for me, is not a binary of Modi's Bharat or Nehru's India. But I would like to use the example of anybody wearing a jacket and we call it the Nehru jacket or we call it the Modi jacket. I tell them saying that this is an Indian jacket. And an Indian jacket, or Modi's India and Nehru's Bharat, is what I would like you to understand. In that there is something good in Jawaharlal Nehru, there is something good in Prime Minister Modi. So I don't sit on either side of the aisle, but I am always bracketed into either side of the aisle basis the question I ask. Like today we saw, tell me the brief. But what I'm trying to say is that you should not be blinded by that there is somebody who is absolutely correct and say that ye jo bhi bol raha hai wo sahi bol raha hai. That cannot and should not happen. If you've seen Harry Potter, and I love Harry Potter, so I'll use the analogy. How many of you have seen Harry Potter? Correct. So in Harry Potter, there's a character called Albus Dumbledore. And there's a better character called Severus Snape. Is Snape good or bad? But is there some element of bad? Is he mean to Harry Potter? Yes. But does he love Lily Potter? Yeah. There is some amount of good and bad in Snape also. The thing is, there is no one definition of India. There should not be one definition of India. The definition of India for me is we are a country which is humane, which is spiritual, which can combine and unite the world. And that is written in our scriptures, that is written in our books, and that is something that you should believe in, that you as young people have the ability to unite the world, not because BJP or Congress is right or wrong, not because Prime Minister Modi or Rahul Gandhi is right or wrong, but because you as Indians believe in not binaries, but you believe in the fact that everybody is just one. And that is what is the celebration of the Ram Rajya. That is what is 22nd of January. That is what is Hindu Dharma. That is essentially what our country stands for. But sorry, please go on. Yes, so this is my answer of what is India. This is the India I believe in. Yes.
You're saying there is some amount of good and bad in everyone. I think there is some amount of right and left in you.
Well said.
So, one final question from my side before we take one or two questions from the audience. So, again, these are personalities which have different flavors to their life. Something that you found very surprising, you had not anticipated, and when you encountered it was, oh, aisa bhi hota hai. Was there any such moment while meeting all of them and documenting in the book?
So I'd like to tell you something about the book in this is the 10th chapter of the book is about a gentleman called Syed Akbaruddin. Syed Akbaruddin आप लोग जानते हो? Anyone? Syed Akbaruddin ji was India's former ambassador to the United Nations. तो बहुत बड़े व्यक्ति है. And Ambassador Akbaruddin, and I've written this in the book, in 2016, as young people, we decided saying हम लोग को कुछ unique करना है. We had rented out a city, एक trade conference में conference किया था. We were 19, 20, 21, 22 years of age, just like आप लोग ने जैसे literature festival किया है. And Sahil, we said let's rent out the United Nations.
Let's rent out the UN complex.
UN. तो अभी UN थोड़ी hotel थोड़ी है. College थोड़ी है, it's something.
Venue partner.
That venue partner SRCC, knowledge partner Rishihood. We cannot do that in the United Nations. United Nations में permission चाहिए 190 देश से. 190 plus countries have to sign and agree saying yes you can use the room. तो हम लोग को लगा कि हो जाएगा. तो हम लोग ने पत्र लिखा और पत्र लिखने के बाद we wrote to the Indian government saying sir we need a room. They said ले लो, दिल्ली में there is IIC, India International Center, वहाँ ले लो. UN में नहीं मिल सकता. I said क्यों? This is what I really like about young people. There's a girl called Kashvi. She said क्यों? They asked, the spirit of inquiry. Said, why? We need permission from 193 countries, that's why. So then she responded saying, so why can't we get permission from 193 countries? Young है ना, तो कुछ भी पूछ लेते हैं. So the response came saying, okay, you go ahead and get it, we'll support you. So we wrote to different countries asking for permission, this, that, etc., blah, blah, blah. Some 1-2 countries said no. Can you guess which countries would have said no? You already know which countries would have said no. Couple of countries said no. We wrote to the Indian ambassador in the UN, said, please, we need your help and intervention. He helped. And the first organization to organize a full-fledged program in the UN on 15th of August to celebrate the Indian Independence Day was not a British, was not a UK-based was not a UK, US, France-based organization celebrating and taking over the UN, but was an Indian organization that did it. And a 20-year-old girl was in charge of that project. But Sahil, this is not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to say is 2016 हो गया, तो 2017 में 2016 कॉन्फ्रेंस खत्म हो गया, क्लोजिंग स्पीच चल रही थी, एम्बेसडर बहुत खुश हो गए, प्रभावित हो गए क्योंकि मैंने तो बात नहीं की. तो काशवी बात कर रही थी तो उससे प्रभावित हो गए, बोले आपने बहुत बढ़िया काम किया है. तो काशवी खुश हो गई. दूसरी बात थी कि काशवी इज़ एन इंजीनियरिंग स्टूडेंट, वो फाइनल ईयर इंजीनियरिंग में थी. तो आई टेल यू द कॉन्टेक्स्ट. So he said, I'm so happy with you. Next year, I want you to do this program in the General Assembly Hall of the UN with 1,000 students from across the world celebrating India. Kashvi, to, matlab, she got charged. She's like, the ambassador of India has told me that now I have to organize this program. Rishabh, we will organize this program. I said, 1,000 बच्चों को लेके आना इंडिया से. Per student, the cost was 2.5-3 lakh rupees. Now you do the math. For a 20-year-old to raise that kind of money is not an easy task. So I said, this is not easy, Kashvi, ye nahi ho sakta. So she said, nahi. And she worked on this project with her entire team. I to kuch karta nahi hu. I just keep instructions. So she worked on the project with her entire team, and for 9 months, Sahil, they did all of this work. Suddenly, 3 महीने पहले एक पत्र आता है. All the bookings are done. USA is not like coming from Bombay to Delhi. USA is like going from here to New York. We finished bookings, everything, raised all the money, etc. They said, you are hereby not allowed to do the event in the United Nations. So Kashvi tension mein, saying, Rishabh, permission is denied. So we wrote to the ambassador, said, kya ho gaya? Ambassador said, not allowed. So he said, but what's the reason? No, not allowed. Please explain. Don't feel like explaining. Now we had no option what to do. So we wrote to everyone, all these big people we wrote to. 7 Lok Kalyan Marg se leke, Nagpur se leke. I'll to say this on camera, I've said this on camera in the book. We wrote to everyone. मुझे एक ही चीज़ आती है, this entire book is written without sifarish. It is written on pure merit. All these people have been met on merit, including Karan Johar, who said, but you were dating that girl from Bollywood? And I said, yes, when I was better looking, I was dating her. Then I started combing my hair like this. But everything in this organization is without sifarish. So we wrote to all these people, nobody responded, Sahil. And those who responded, like Nagpur wrote back, said, देखिए क्या कर सकते. And 3 months became 1 month. 1 month became 14 days. 14 days prior to departure, that girl had examinations. उसको engineering की final year की examinations थी. That girl and her friends were in stress. One of those friends now works with Gauranga Prabhuji, Hardik. They were in stress saying, kya kare? Permission has not come, what to do? So they came to me saying, Rishabh, kya kare? I was like, main kya karu? So I went to my grandfather. I told my grandfather, please madad kar lo. It is crores of rupees. My grandfather has this typical attitude. He said, Rishabh, organization kiski hai? I said, meri hai. तो solution किसको निकालना है? I said, मुझे निकालना मिल नहीं रहा है, तो आप advice कर लो. You figure it out. So we didn't know what to do. That girl failed in her examination. क्योंकि mental health के बारे में आज बात करते, but that girl in 2017 failed in her papers. She flunked because she didn't know what to do for this. Mr. Akbaruddin, I tried to reach out to. He did not receive calls. Please understand, I look like this right now. Imagine in 2017, imagine 2011 when we started this organization. Nobody takes you seriously up until the time you have white hair. We didn't get a response. We didn't get a solution. Then, in the middle of all of this, 7 days prior to departure, there was a boy who basically came and he said, and you're sitting with Kashvi, said, Rishabh, we heard this one speech which you were giving, because I keep talking, nobody listens. Some of you are forced to listen. Where you said, if you can't hold the ear from one hand, then hold it from the other. So I said, yes, true. Like, तो हम लोग Dean of SRCC को क्यों पूछ रहे हैं? Why are we asking people why are we asking the coordinator of SRCC? Why are we asking other people if we want to visit SRCC? Why are we asking other people? Why can't we directly go to the United Nations and ask the United Nations? I said, वो United Nations है. Divided nations नहीं है that we can go to one to. Said, write to the UN Secretary General. We wrote to the then UN Secretary General a letter. सिर्फ पत्र लिखा, email. So the UN Secretary General had met us the last year. So he said, "Arey, this is that funny guy, right? Who thinks he's funny?"
Some more comedy.
And he said, "Asha, so this is great." So he asked for a video call. So we got on a video call about 4 days prior to the event. And 4 दिन पहले तक स्कूल को पता नहीं था. 1000 बच्चे जा रहे, स्कूल को पता नहीं था. हम स्कूल को कैसे बोले that the permission to the United Nations has been denied? How do we tell Cathedral John Connon? How do we tell DPS RK Puram? How do we tell CMS Lucknow? How do we tell La Montagne Kolkata that your permission has been denied? How do we tell a Kendriya Vidyalaya who spent so much of resources and wants to come to the United Nations? How do we tell all of these people? So we didn't have a choice. So we got on that video call. On that video call, the UN Secretary General says, "This is a great program. Does your Prime Minister know that you're doing this?" I said, "Sir, I don't have a hotline. You have." Said, "Okay." There and then dialed his office. I've never seen the Indian machinery work so fast. मैंने पूरे life में, I've never seen ambassadors across the world work this fast. In 2 days, the permission was granted. In 2 days, we got all the protocol in place to enter the UN and all of that. On 15th August 2017, much against the wishes of, and I'll say this, I've said it in the book, much against the wishes of the bureaucracy of the Indian government in the UN and in other places, because later we came to know that sometimes everybody who has Akbar in their name may sometimes also be Aurangzeb. And at that juncture we realized we got those permissions on 15th August 2017. I'm happy to tell you the next year in the General Assembly Hall, 1,000 people were sitting out there hoisting the national flag, and this was not because we held the year like this, but because we held it like this. So what I'm trying to say, Sahil, in this is that we met different types of people. Those different types of people have taught us a lot. These people are very good, and okay. But all of these people have taught us something. That girl Kashvi, I think you know her. That girl Kashvi, or perhaps you've not yet met her, but I'll make you meet her, is Mr. Akbaruddin has retired. This is the power of you. Just bear with me for 10 seconds, we'll take one question less. But this is the power of you. That gentleman has retired. He's a very established diplomat. He's retired. This young girl Kashvi, who got a KT in engineering, nobody gave her a chance to enter into an Ivy League university. Ivy League university में जाने के लिए आपको KT मिलेगा तो कभी एंट्री मिलेगी? तो लोगों ने ना बोला. मैंने बोला पत्र लिखो, SOP लिखो. तो उसने SOP लिखा. Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Carnegie Mellon, all of these top universities. 100% scholarship in NYU Stern, studied at NYU Stern, then worked in the United Nations in the same department that Shashi Tharoor once led, and then after that realized the United Nations is but a stooge of the US government. So she left the United Nations and today works in the US government. In 15 years from now, the new Rishi Sunak and the new Kamala Harris, if that name is Kashvi Jaggi, remember that you heard that story out here for the very first time. You are powerful, and don't let anybody else tell you that. You need to be respectful, but remember, don't let anybody ever tell you that you cannot, because as cliche as it sounds, even in the word cannot, there is can. This is not a book about 10, this is a book about 10 individuals who've inspired me, but also about 10 stories of Kashvis in this book who are doing incredible things, who have managed to make this happen. United Nations happened like this. Mohan Bhagwat ji happened like this. Rahul Gandhi happened like this. And what is it that we've learned from them? If you are young, Shashi Tharoor's written the first 3 pages, and I told him to write in English because he writes in a language that may be difficult for some of us. And he writes the foreword, and the first chapter is Mohan Bhagwat, and the next chapter is Rahul Gandhi. And the chapter after that is Subramaniam Swami. My publisher told me, "Don't you love your life?" And I said, even after that conversation that got over in the morning, I said, I have nothing to lose. None of these people know me. None of them will know me. My job is only one, that young people get empowered, become leaders of tomorrow whose heart beats for India. We have 41 elected members of government from the organization. If any of those 41 came on stage today, you would all stand up and clap because they are all public figures. My job is to ensure that you And I hope this book also serves as that. My job in the book will serve as an inspiration to you that you can do anything. And these stories are documented real life examples published and out there for you to say that yes, if that chomu with that hairstyle, with a bunch of teenagers who did not know anything could do it, then so can we. So, in that, I hope I can communicate nothing but the truth to you. And in that, I hope that you pick up something.
Yeah, great. I think that deserves a round of applause from everyone. What a fantastic story. And I've seen his work. I've been to the office. I see the energy that these young guys have. Do we have time for an audience question? Okay. Who has a pressing question?
Can you share your personal experience and like how in real life is Mr. A.R. Rahman? Because I'm personally a huge fan of his. So can you please give a
Does his voice actually sound like that? does he compose when he's talking to you?
Man, he's the most rhythmical person that I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you that if there's one person who has rhythm even in his conversation, is that man. And I'll tell you something. The first time I met him, I thought that I was doing something wrong because most of the times I'm doing something wrong, right? So I walked inside the room and I sat down like this, and he was opposite me, and he was tapping his feet like this, all right, continuously. So I thought whenever somebody taps their feet like this and बात करते हैं आपके साथ, तो आपको लगता है कि जल्दी बात करो, correct? So I'm speaking at a pace of like the Rajdhani Express or now the Vande Bharat, right? I'm speaking at Vande Bharat speed saying, sir, so this is what I wanted to tell you. This is. So he's like, calm down, Rishbha. Why are you speaking so fast? So I said, sir, because you're tapping your feet. So he's like, I always tap my feet. And because of my music, the country taps its feet. So I said, correct, sir. So about A.R. Rahman, we again have this notion, and he is, must say this, we have this notion that he's a musical maestro. He is. He is. But who is to say that a musical maestro can't be a genius in history? I'm telling you this. If he came into this room and spoke about politics and history, he would make more sense than some of the people that I was in conversation with. What I'm trying to say is, A.R. Rahman is a maestro in music. वो सबको पता है, सबको पता है कि A.R. Rahman जो कंपोज करते हैं वो अरमान मलिक को भी पता है, वो बाहर से दुआ लिपा भी आएगी, वो भी बोलेगी, saying yes, A.R. Rahman is God. Everybody knows this. But what people don't know, my young friend, is that A.R. Rahman and Sahil, it was a 30-minute meeting, and I have, I only say those many things, right? तो उसके बाद खत्म हो जाता है. But Mr. Rahman went on and on and on and on. About what? Not about the tunes that he was making, not about the Sufi music that he's so passionate about, but about the fact that, Rishabh, India में लोग Indian तो बन रहे हैं, but वो Indian जो बन रहे हैं, and I've written it in the book, the people that are becoming Indian in either point A or point Z. The Indian values that India stands for are fast dissipating, and we are becoming, again, which I started with, a world of binaries. And he spoke about this for 2 hours. And he spoke about the fact that how he's so passionate about India, right from Ma Tujhe Salam, all the way to all his compositions, if you see. India is a central theme in most of them. The thing that, what I'm trying to tell you is, if somebody says you are a commerce student, you can't necessarily understand science. You may be a very popular economist like Raghuram Rajan, and you yet may be very passionate about trying to play music, and at the same point in time, the central theme to all the 10 people is that their heart beats for India. Mr. Rahman's one thing that I picked up, which I didn't know. I always knew that he was very good at his music, but one thing that I picked up is, boss, this guy is also a patriot. Civic nationalism बोल दो या patriotism बोल दो, but that runs in his DNA. And that runs in his DNA, and those kind of things, when I meet and I see Sahil, that time I'm like, dude, these guys really care about our country, man. And they're not just faffing and talking. And there are also times when I look at some people and then I say, this doesn't make sense. But remember that always be, one of the things that I keep telling people at I'm sorry I'm giving the gyan, but one of the things that we forget to do is we forget to take information from everyone. We only take information from those who we like. We don't take information from those that we don't like. And that is the difference that will be in the generation to come. If you are able to take if you're able to take different opinions and learn from everyone, I think we'll have an inclusive India that is truly representative of our roots and our culture. If we don't do that, Sahil, the 800 million will in itself fight. They will divide. And the country will not become Viksit, forget in 2047. It won't be Viksit even in 2067. Therefore, it is in your hands the next time somebody comes to learn something from them, irrespective of the belief systems they have. I hope I answered your question on Rahman.
So let me announce the question on the mic for everyone. So when you're talking to people, your title is nothing but the truth. But how do you know whether what they're telling you is the truth or not?
A great question, yaar. Like, again in Sanskrit, there's a shlok that goes, Sankalpa Vikalpa Atmakam Manaha, which basically means that your mind keeps wavering from right to left and left to right. I am unable to say what is right and what is left. But the more I've interacted with these people, the more I'm able to realize and I'm able to tell that as soon as they start speaking, whether they are playing to the gallery and faffing or whether it is something that they innately believe in. There are many people, you're very young and impressionable. There are many people who stand up on this stage and say, I'm an Indian and India is my identity. And in actuality, they'll not be having an Indian passport also. Really. I've met these kind of people who will say that India is not my Janma Bhumi but my Karma Bhumi also. And then when you, but sir, to aapka passport to...
I think such people live in South Bombay.
He said South Bombay because I live in South Bombay. Thank you. Yeah, but majority of them live in South Delhi and South Bombay, I'll be honest. So what I'm telling you, my young friend, is this, that don't believe people on face value. Don't believe them on face value. Always go and check their facts. Anybody and everybody can make a good speech. Beyond a point, most of the public figures know how to make a good speech. Or somebody trains them on how to speak. Like my good friend has trained me. But what I'm trying to say is that you essentially don't need to take everything at face value. Earlier I would say Google it. Now I'll simply say Chat GPT it. And honestly, anybody who you take at face value, be mindful of the fact that, and it's been the bitter reality. I used to be naive and impressionable. I used to say, नहीं जो बोल रहे वो बिल्कुल सही है, उसमें तो सब सत्य ही है, कुछ गलत नहीं है. And then in this book I've written about Mr. Gandhi also and Mr. Bhagwat also. And I've written about the things that are negative per se. I've written what is negative. And then as somebody once told me saying, जो आपने लिखा है, वो गलती से किसी ने पढ़ लिया तो. अब तक तो किसी ने नहीं पढ़ा. But गलती से किसी ने पढ़ लिया तो, people may come to you and say that you have spoken the truth. So I said, I don't want to go to parliament. I said, I don't want to do anything in public space. As Sahil knows, I am a part-time comedian. Not. My job is to make sure that you are able to discern the truth. And if you are able to discern the truth and how to discern the truth, anybody who says anything, in the last 10 seconds, I will tell you the answer to your question, because I gave a lot of gyan which didn't make sense. But the answer to your question is, if you picked it up, anybody who picks up the mic and gives you gyan, ask them, check those facts on Chat GPT. And if you have the opportunity of a one-on-one, ask them saying, why ABC? And when they answer at that juncture, you'll be able to tell how much depth, how much substance. Here it's easy to either stay shut or give gyan. Don't miss out on Googling and Chat GPTing everything that people say, because I can guarantee you that 8 out of the 10 facts that you see on social media, on both outlets which are on extreme ends of the spectrum, all, sorry to use the word, is all bullshit. Is all bullshit. When you are able to discern that, and when you are able to say that yes, this is an extreme rubbish view, I think then that book would have served its purpose, and this conversation would have served its purpose. But feel free to question, and feel free to ask, but deferentially. Never ask in a way that, I loved the way you asked your question, continue to do that. Don't make it into a vivad. Make it into a samvad.
I think that's a great note to end this conversation. A lot of takeaways from this session. Don't take anything on face value, and don't just assume what is being told to you. Try to go deeper, and also try to keep an open mind so that you can learn from everyone. And India belongs
To them.
To them.
And the one thing that I'll say, the one last thing I'll say, sorry, is how many of you think that if you write to Elon Musk, he will respond back to you?
If you tweet,
How many
he
of you
might.
think that if you write to Elon Musk, he will respond back to you? And those idiots who raise their hands should please come and meet me after this, because you are the idiots who will be in charge of this country 10 years from now. And I'll end by saying this, that whoever you aspire to meet, I aspire to meet my role model Rahul Dravid. I aspire to meet my role model Kumar Birla. I aspire to meet all these boring people that's really boring and not very flashy, not very flamboyant. No Dua Lipas on that list. But it's the age of Dua Lipa and Duolingo. But the idea that I met all of these people and I've learned from all of these people, and I met Sahil also without any reference or sifarish. All of you who think that in India things move only because somebody will refer you, please correct that. That culture in Delhi and Bombay should be corrected. You can write and you can achieve. There are 800 million of you. If 800 million aspire, get the right Indian values, get the right focus in terms of samvad and not vivad, automatically our country will not be a Viksit Bharat in 2047, but will be a Viksit Bharat in 2037. And that is the future that you hold.